We're live.
Hi, everybody, and welcome back to House Soft Book Club. We are talking about this month A Princess in Theory by Alyssa Cole, and we're going to go through and introduce ourselves, and then I'm asking everybody to right off the bat tell you what they rated this book. Oh, me first. Yeah. I swear. My name is Sunniness. My channel is My Name is Sunniness. And I rated this 3.5 stars.
Okay. I'm Sam from Thoughts on Tomes, and I rated this 2 to 2.5, depending on how I feel.
Hi, I'm Paige from Minimal Bookie, and I gave this 4 stars only because the sex scenes bumped a star off.
I'm Kayla from Bookadoodles, and I gave this 3.5 to 4 stars.
I'm Lainey from Ginger Reads Lainey, and I rated this a 4 star.
I'm Connor from Connor O'Brien, and I also rated this 4 stars.
I'm Jordan from the Jordan Journals, and I rated this a 3.5 out of 5 stars.
Okay, I feel like we've got a pretty good consensus here. Yeah. I mean, Sam was all the way at the bottom, and I feel like I know why, but we'll get there. Where we're actually going to start is talking about the characters. So for those of you guys, I don't know how many of you read along with us, but this is a contemporary romance, and it starts with like this woman who she's a scientist, and she's getting these emails that are basically like those phishing emails that are like, a prince wants to marry you, send your social security number, and she keeps deleting them like, okay, that's obviously bullshit, surprise, the prince is real, and that kind of goes from there. So the main character's name is Milady, and how did you guys feel about Milady as a character?
I thought she was really funny. Like, I was laughing from the beginning just reading her reactions to the emails because it was so relatable. And she had a really interesting career too. Like, I've never read about like somebody in her position, and with the coronavirus, which we were just talking about, it was a timely read.
Yes. Yeah, I really liked her too. I thought that it was interesting that she, like, that was her thing. Like, she's an epidemiologist, and she continues to want to do that no matter what. So even when situations change, she's still, going after that goal. And so I like that she was really driven and really like concrete on that.
I also liked how like independent she was, and like Connor was saying, how driven she was as far as grad school is concerned. I wish like books would show more grad school depictions like that because it's super accurate. So I really liked that angle as well.
I also thought that I don't read a lot of main characters who are like scientists. So I was like, wow, I'm learning a lot about science right now. And I was like, it's like I wasn't mad about it, because usually when I'm like, oh, I don't like that, but I was super into it. I listened to the book on audio. So like the narrator was like the perfect narrator for her. And I could just like, I knew who she was. I could see her and fully like realize her.
Yeah, I really liked her too. I liked that we had a character that was in the science field, because something we don't see very often. And so I really liked that part about her as well.
I also just enjoyed that she was kind of like salty, and not like salty, but she had a little bit of like snap to her. And there were times that she would do things or say things that had a little bit of like bite. And I was like, yeah, girl, you're right. Those emails are annoying, or whatever it was, that her reactions I felt like were genuine and relatable, and I liked what they made, like what it created for her as a character. And the beginning of this book was hilarious. Like within the first few chapters, I was like, this is gonna be a 5-star, because I was laughing so much with the emails and her introduction.
Yeah, I was the same as everybody else. Like, she was probably the highlight of the book for me. There's other things that I did not like, but I liked her, and that was great. And again, I liked that she was a little bit salty, and she had just like, she's like, you're a fuckboy. Like, yes, girl, yes, yes. So like, yeah, I appreciated her. I was like, I would be friends with you, which I liked.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
and she calls Portia out on her shit.
Yeah,
she calls everyone out on their shit. Like, she's talking to like the freaking queen, and she's like, you're a bitch. Like, she's great.
And I think the book kind of made it seem, I mean, she has this like really heavy past, and she's worked up, and basically been out for herself for a long time. And so I think the book kind of made it seem like maybe she was a little closed off and it was hard for her to trust. But at the same time, I'm like, no, she's right. Like, don't trust him. He's lying. That queen is a bitch. Like, I just felt like it had a good balance. Like, okay, it's really difficult for her. Or this is like her past and her trauma or whatnot, but still making it relatable to the reader where we didn't feel closed off from her. We were like relating to her.
Yeah, it was like realistic, like how a regular person would actually react being in that kind of situation, which I really enjoyed because it made it more funny to read.
Yeah.
And like the incident with her like friend, I can't remember her name right now.
Portia.
Yeah, Portia, thank you. She like stayed mad at her and I was like, yes, like, you know what I mean? Like over her actions because that's not your fault. So yeah, I really like that.
All right, so the main love interest, the prince, as it were, Fabiso, how did you guys like him? And so part of the story too is that like he basically lies to her at first about who he is because he wants to just be a normal guy and like have that introduction before he leads in with like the gods have fated us to be married. So he pretends to be not a prince for a while. And then kind of the truth comes out. So did you like him? Did you enjoy him? And in general, how do you like secret identity sort of tropes in romance? Like, do you have an issue with it at its core?
I didn't like him very much. I had moments that I liked him. Like, I got where he was coming from with it. Like, I was like, yeah, you can't just rush in and be like, I'm a prince and we need to get married. Like, I get that. But I think it went on too long. And I was really hoping it wasn't going to do what it did, which was like they slept together and she didn't know who he was. And I was like, no. And I think the book did a decent-ish job of like making him pay for that, but like still not really because I'm like, this is a romance book. They're going to end up together. And I'm pissed because like you should have, there's no excuse, man. So I don't think to love secret identities that last that long. It was fine at first. Like at first I was like, this is kind of cute. Like she doesn't know. And like they have feelings and whatever. But as soon as sex started happening and he hasn't said it, I'm like, no, I don't agree. So I liked the accents. Like Lainey was saying, I also listened on audio. I think all of us did. Did all of us listen on audio?
No,
besides Kayla. Okay.
Oh,
so we all listened on audio and the accents were great. So I was like, your voice is wonderful. But you as a person, I don't love a lot. So
yeah, I found him like kind of one-dimensional, really. Like you weren't rooting for him the same way you were rooting for Naledi. He just like his main concern was about being a prince and about his like lie. So I felt like his chapters, I was more concerned about like what was happening and then thinking like what is she experiencing on the other side? Like I can't wait to get back to her perspective. I just found him like really one-dimensional. Like he did his job as being like the love interest prince, but I wasn't really concerned about his like struggles as much.
Okay, so listen. Okay, so I read this book like not long after Black Panther came out. So all I thought was Chadwick Boseman. And here's the thing. I'm a Libra, so I can forgive anything as long as a person's pretty. So as I'm picturing him as Chadwick Boseman, I'm like, I don't care.
Oh my god.
Yeah, as
I'm
the
taking
book
a
went
Twitter
on,
break. I need to tweet that. I'm a Libra, so I can think of anyone anything.
I was like, that's the tagline for the whole live show. I'm Libra, so.
Oh my god.
as the book went on, I just like could not divorce him from Black Panther, so he just became more and more Chadwick Boseman in my head. But like him as a character, I didn't have any really strong feelings towards him or against him.
Yeah, like
I was the only.
Sorry,
I was the only person picturing John Boyega, I guess, and that's fine. That's okay. Whatever.
I can see that.
Another good alternate.
It's okay. I don't feel like I had like super strong feelings about him as a character. I feel like mostly it was a byproduct of the other stuff. So it was like the plot and the pacing and the secret identity stuff that went on too long. Like he was fine, and I think that the book tried to give him the same treatment as Naledi, where it was like, but he's a prince, and there's so much to worry about, and like forgive him. And I was kind of like, oh, but that wasn't really his fault. Like I feel like. He was trying, I guess. I don't know. Yeah. He was fine. It was the other stuff that I wasn't sold on.
I think I didn't hate him as much as some people did, but I feel like he like was trying to tell her, but she like actually made it difficult. I don't think that he should have crossed that line at the end.
She made it difficult, so he couldn't say who he was.
Well, honestly, could you imagine doing that?
No, can I imagine being a prince? No, I can't.
I could.
He had so much time. He had so much time. Like, actually, I didn't hate his personality, to be honest. Like, I actually liked what I really liked about him, to defend him a second, because I didn't actually hate him. Like, I don't have that strong of feelings, but like, I liked that he stuck up to his parents a lot, because a trope that I hate in romance is when the parents are like shitty to the main character, and the guy's just like, well, it's my mom, and he was like, Mom, stop it. So that was great. But so outside of the mistaken identity thing, I actually didn't mind him that much, but just that, like, I couldn't get past that with him, because I'm like, you really did have a lot of time. Like, you write her a note, man. Like, write her an email. Write her an email. Come on, dude. You just didn't do it. And I'm like, no. Like, I knew the book was going to do that, and then I got upset when it did it.
Yeah, I had like meth feelings overall. Sorry. I had meth feelings overall about him, but at the same time, like when we first like get introduced to him and stuff, I like the fish out of water aspect, like how he talks and like different things like that. Like it reminded me of Enchanted a little bit when they came out of the cartoon and they're like, goodbye, peasants, but like I like things like that. So that's what I do. But yeah, otherwise he was just okay. And like Sam said, like I like how he stood up to his parents for her. Yeah.
I think it was just like he was good at supporting her in what she was wanting to do. So like she wanted to be an epidemiologist, and he like was going through all these things to try to help that happen. And like even later on in the book, like her coming there is so that she can have this like internship or whatever it is. So he's really just like secondary. It's like Naledi is the star, and then he's like, okay, like let me help her out a little bit. But yeah, he should have definitely come forward sooner.
Yeah. Well, see, okay, so one of my favorite movies is The Prince and Me, and it kind of followed like the same beats to that. Like those characters was PG, so they didn't go full on sex, but they did like make out, and then she finds out that he's the prince. So like that's kind of like what I was like basing kind of this book on, because I am so familiar with that movie. But I mean, I don't know. Again, I don't mind when like romances tend. I don't mind when like when the romance book does something like a little bit more opposite to what is like the typical formula for a romance book, especially because this is like a very typical contemporary romance in the adult genre. So yeah, I didn't mind that they slept together before she knew who he was.
Yeah, I was really expecting it, so I didn't really it didn't faze me, because I knew that's what was going to happen, just based on like you said other stories that I've read with the same trope.
So I don't like my problem with like secret identity stuff is always just more that I get so frustrated with like stories where if anybody just like used their words, like the whole plot would crumble. And so and the thing was that it really did feel like it went on too long. But Lainey brings up a good point, or like the other part of this, which is that it is also like a royal romance. I'm always here for. Like, I don't know. There's something about like the royal aspect of it, even though like the queen and king were being like rude or whatever. But just like, she became a princess and like that aspect of it. And because it was like very Black Panther-esque or whatnot, that was a trope that I was into. So were there any other tropes in here that you guys liked or didn't like or anything like that?
So that's the other thing. I think I'm also mad because we had the fake identity, and then we had fake dating, fake engaged, but they're not fake dating, fake engaged, because they've been engaged since they were 3. So like they're not actually fake dating. So I was mad because like I love the fake dating trope, and I'm like, you're not though. You're like together by the goddess. You're doing the dance. Like, come on. Well, I was just like, I'm being robbed.
The dance.
I'm screaming.
I wish I knew what that dance looked like. Does anybody like look up like what that would have been? Like, was that like?
No.
I think you got it though. I think it's exactly what you're doing right now.
Yeah.
That's definitely it.
My legs were moving too, because there was a legs action for sure.
Yeah.
I wish I could see it.
Okay. Anybody else on the trope? I don't know. Nobody had any feelings on trope.
Lainey, any thoughts? I'll bring her back.
I don't know. Like that is strongly right now.
Okay.
I do like the villain, like royal uncle, always in these stories. That like
That was so obvious.
It was
Oh my
like,
god.
yes. I was like, he's definitely the bad guy, and he's pushing her. Like, whoa.
He wasn't even introduced yet, and I was like, okay, it's gonna be the uncle, obviously, like the finance guy. Like,
Oh my god, guys! Okay, I know we haven't gotten to the plot yet, but the fact that like that was the whole thing at the end, and then it's like we're just gonna wrap it up really quick. I'm like, why is this happening? Why did you even include that? Why even have the evil uncle? Like, I don't.
Yeah. We're talking about this now. Then the plot, the evil uncle. It was really weird to me because the first portion of the book, it went on for too long, but that first portion in New York where it was like secret identity and these two people and whatnot, and then all of a sudden you are in, I forget the name of like the country or whatnot. And it felt like a different book almost. Like it felt like, I don't know, the pacing and everything changed. It was really weird. And then all of a sudden it was like, go, go, go. We've got like this pandemic to deal with. We've got the uncle. We've got this like business thing where it was like, you know, they were gonna like pillage the villages, and the prince was like, "Is this a good idea?" No, it's not a good idea. The back half of the book really just kind of not ruined it for me. It was still enjoyable overall, but it was definitely not as strong as the first half.
No, I just felt like there was a lot of just like pointless stuff sort of thrown in. Like, I get they had to have the evil uncle because that's why her parents fled, to like get away from him. But I still feel like there could have been something else that they could have brought in, and they didn't have to have this like conspiracy, like he's poisoning all these people, because it was really just like kind of rushed at the end. And I also didn't feel like, I think that's another problem that I sort of had with this is a lot of the side characters, which I know we haven't quite got to. So I'm sorry, I'm just like jumping around with my frustration. like it's fine. It's off the rails already. But like, I'm sorry. But like the side characters, including the uncle, the cousin, I have a friend, but we'll get to that. Like, a lot of people just didn't feel like fleshed out or real. So I'm like, don't even include them. Like, you did such a good job with Naledi, and you did a decent enough job with the Biso, and I liked his assistant, whose name I'm forgetting. But other than that, everyone else was just kind of like flat. And like, why are you here then? You don't have a personality besides like, I'm mean to you, I'm nice to you. You know, like that's all it was.
So, I'm pretty sure she writes books about all those other characters because I checked like, the other books just to see. Yeah, and I was like, I'm going to read that one next. Thanks. Like,
I do want to read Portia's book a little bit, but
it's the second one.
Yeah,
I just finished it.
Okay.
Connor's like, I've actually read the whole series. I'm a stan now.
What?
Anybody else like on like the plot thing or the evil uncle thing? Somebody says the evil uncle comes back in the
I love that. I need to read the 5th book now because what? He comes back.
Is he like the love interest?
Lainey's like,
I can like spin him into like a Jafar like character. I think down.
Lainey, we need to stop with Jafar. How did you bring Jafar into this?
You know what? Like the evil advisor. Like that is my shit.
Oh my god, I'm screaming. So as far as plot, I wish they stayed in New York the entire time because it would have been just like The Prince and Me, and it would have been perfect. But yeah, I was like listening to the audiobook, and I was like, we are still not in Africa, and that's definitely coming. When is this coming? It was like 5 chapters or something. It was insane how short and like everything was so condensed into that last bit.
I feel like it was like the Prince and Me at the beginning, and then after they got to it, it was like almost like the Princess Diaries, whatever number that was. When people are like, "No, we don't like you," it's like, "No, love her," whatever. So I feel like it combined both movies in this book.
Yeah, for sure.
I was reading it.
I also didn't really understand the cousin.
Oh yeah.
Does she get a book?
I think she has her own book too.
Oh, wow.
She does. She ends up with that.
I think she's the third one.
Dad Prince or whatever. The stepson Prince.
Oh, the
Prince on paper.
Yeah.
Yes. So like the stepson that's like mentioned, that's this friend of the prince in this one. That we see very briefly. He's the love interest in that one with her.
Okay.
He's a more prominent character in the second book too.
And so the more recent one, like spin-offy thing that she announced is with Shanti in this book, who's like waiting in the wings to be the queen, and he's like, "No, I don't love you." Like now she gets her own book. So
cool.
No, I don't love
everybody gets their own book.
Why? No. Like I get that romance authors that do series do this, but like at least make your characters like interesting. I want to read about
aliens, okay?
Listen, okay,
Nice
you guys.
barbarian.
No. No, we're not doing this.
That should be our March book.
Oh my god.
You guys are testing me so much at this moment. But the other character that I'd be interested in, who probably someone tell me if she has her own book, is the girl that's the blogger, the geek blogger.
Her sister, Reggie?
Is it Portia's sister?
Yeah, Portia's sister, yeah.
Does she have a book?
I don't know.
Probably.
She was actually interesting.
She's in the second book a lot because Portia is the main character. Well, she's not really in it.
Someone said she has a novella.
There we go.
Makasi has a novella too, I think, or a novel.
Everybody gets a book.
Yeah.
Someone said in the comments, everyone gets a chance to bang, and I'm like, okay.
And you know what? Honestly, I love that for all of them.
Should we talk about the sex scenes now, since we mentioned?
Yeah,
sure.
Sure.
So, okay, I think the thing is that all of us have like different backgrounds with like reading romance and like how much of that we do in contemporary romance. So like, you know, I read it pretty regularly, but I've only been reading romance for the last like 3 years, I would say. I'd never read romance before, and then I just kind of like dove right in, and I read a couple of romances every month. So I'm like fine with like sex scenes. Like I don't have any problem. There's very rare times where I'm reading a sex scene and I'm like, oh my god, that's like not. I'm deducting a star. But there were some descriptions in these ones that I was like. And I think that the thing I mentioned this in the chat. So it's like that thing, like if you're watching a movie with friends or something and an unexpected sex scene comes on and you're like, you know, trying to play it cool, but you're now all watching these people naked together. It's that like elephant in the room. So I was listening to some of these and I was like, oh my God, Sam is listening to this too. And
I was horrified. Oh my God.
So, did anybody else have the same experience with the sex scenes? Did you like it, not like it? Do you know what description I'm talking about?
I feel like my problem was listening to it. Like reading, normally I'm like, whatever, I've read a lot of fanfic, like it's whatever, I can just read it. But I was literally 1 cup of like Prosecco on an empty stomach, walking to work, listening to it in public and regretting all of my choices. Like my face was reacting to what was happening. And I was like, okay, we're doing this and your descriptions are concerning me. So like, it was a very interesting experience listening to it. That was like, I'm going to read them in the future for sure.
Lainey's like, I don't care.
I mean, I host a romance readathon called Smudathon, so I'm pretty well versed in most sex scenes. And I didn't have like a super problem with this, but like some descriptions do make me just go like, really? Like anything like just like comparing something to something else. So like we said, like you guys brought it up in like the chat, like the tongue to the tornado. Like that brings me a really weird visual in my head. Especially when I'm listening to it, because I listen to a lot of romance books. So yeah, I didn't like that. Those always, if I'm taken out of the romance or out of the sex scene, I guess it was like not as good of a sex scene. But if I'm like invested all the way to the very end, then it was good. And there were moments like that, I think, in this book.
Yeah. Overall, they were fine, but it was description things like Lainey is talking about exactly, where it either caused a reaction or it had like a weird description where I was like, I don't want to associate tornadoes with my vagina. Like, this is not thing. It was like very specific word choices versus like anything else in the description or in the sex scene itself.
Like,
I don't remember this phrase at all in the book. I just like read right past it and kept going.
Well, it was when they were in the cave, and she was like complaining about the rocky ground, and I'm like, I like my knees more than I like. I don't know. Like, I had some questions with a capital Q. So,
so the thing with the sex scenes, man, I wanted to hear all of your thoughts before I just started ranting about it. Just to be fair, listening to it on audio was like probably a poor choice for me. Well, I'm torn because I liked the rest of the plot on audio, but listening to a sex scene being read to me is like one of the most horrifying moments of my life, because I just like, this is so embarrassing. And I'm living with my parents right now, so I'd be playing it and then I'd be like, fuck, and I'd have to like get my phone because they'd be like talking about a sex scene and someone's penis all the time, and I'm like, please stop. So that was my own choice. I'm sorry, I don't have AirPods, so like I couldn't be like listening to it while my phone was across the room. And I think the thing that like made me more than anything is I don't tend to like books where when they think about each other, not when they're having sex, they're thinking about each other in a sexual way, like all the time. Like they're flashing back to like, remember when he was, his mouth was on my pussy? Like, I don't want to, like, stop thinking about him like that. Ew. And I think that's a me thing. Like, I don't feel personally attraction in that way. So I'm not sitting there like, oh my God, that guy's so cute. I'm thinking about his penis, but like she was. And I'm like, I can't do this. I'm so embarrassed. Like, even though that's fine that you think about him that way. I don't like it though. So the fact that like every time they thought about each other, it was like sex stuff. So it was that plus the sex scenes that got me. But that's just because my level of smut comfort is different than everyone else's.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just a baby over here that's like, please stop talking about it. I don't want to hear it anymore. So, but I will say, in my own defense, I have been reading more romance since the fall. And I don't hate sex scenes. In fact, I look for them in the book. I'm like, why hasn't it happened yet? But like, please stop. So it was just too much. It was sexual energy overload in a way that I did not personally want. I'm sorry.
No, I don't experience it the same way that you do. I think that you described that in like such a really interesting way, because it's true. It was never like, I mean, not that I can remember right now. Maybe it happened, but thinking back on it now, it was very much always like, he's so sexy, and not like his mind.
Right. Right.
Maybe it was. But
I don't like when characters reminisce about each other and they always think like sex first. Like, I'm like, vary it up. Like, if you think about sex a little bit with him because it was so great, cool, whatever. I'm glad you had a good time. But like, like all the time. And then it's supposed to be like, the book is also trying to kind of tell you that they're like fated to be together and they're like soulmates, but they're not really thinking about each other in like a soulmate way. They're like, he's sexy, So I'm like, which one does he want it to be? Because right now you're doing a lot of descriptions that's like just the sex stuff and not giving me the like, we have this emotional connection. It's nothing but the sex stuff for me. So
unless any Connor, more sex.
Just like a side note, I was listening to the audiobook, obviously, and we were driving back from a trip, and Tony was a bit shocked when they started just going at it. I was like, oh, yep, you're gonna have to suffer through this.
I'm at the point in my listening to sex scenes that I'm at work and I'm like type, going through reports and everything, and then like nasty shit is being blasted into my ears, and then someone walks in and they're like, hey, can you like help me with something? And I'm like, yeah, look, hold on a second. Let me pause.
I was listening to it in my car and I was afraid that people in other cars would hear me. Like, I was like nervous. I was like, I have to turn this down because someone's gonna know that I'm listening to this.
I now do the thing where I put my AirPods on when I go to Target. It's so nice because I can just stop and like feel like I'm in my own bubble or whatnot. And I was listening to this, and then I was like, "Oh nope, I can't do it in public. Like I can't be like his tornado was a tornado," and I'm like, "That's cat food? No, it's too weird." All right, we touched a little bit on some of the side characters, but I kind of want to go back around to Portia and the friendship, because I feel like all of you felt about Portia in a different way than I did. I felt really bad for Portia, and the only time that I was like, Melody, you need to calm down, was when she was dealing with Portia and the friendship, because I felt like she was being a little bit too hard, and the way that she was like, I don't know, thinking about the friendship was I don't know, it just was like not the only thing that I didn't exactly like relate to her on. I felt bad for Portia. She was trying to be a friend, she just has issues.
Well, I think Naledi does too. Like, she's so used to people always just leaving or not being there. So I don't think she really like valued that she had a friend that was always there for her, even if she was messy. That's kind of how, yeah.
I think with Portia, it was just like the way that she did everything that was like way over the line. Like, she had her come to this huge thing where she's having an important conversation with whatever the person was that she was going to internship with. Like, Naledi is like putting everything about her future on this like event, and then she knows that this confrontation is going to happen, and she's just like, it's going to be drama. And then I would be pissed if someone set me up like that. So I mean, I think that Naledi had like a properly, I don't know, proportional response at first, and then I think that she was just like holding a grudge for a little too long. But I've also read the second book, so I know where that ends up.
Okay, Connor, we know.
Yeah, I felt like the same about like Portia obviously was going through something, and Naledi was so focused like on her own problems that she wasn't thinking to like ask her friend what was happening. Like, Portia was wrong to do the whole like ball thing when they show up and we find out he's the prince, and you knew that was going to be a complete mess. But I felt like it was an overreaction to just like go to a different country without resolving your issues with your friend in the previous country first. Like, that was something I was just like, okay, we need to like get past this moment. And they resolve it so quickly. Like, Portia just shows up in the hospital and suddenly she's like, yeah, you good. Like, we're done.
Maybe it was going back to like their New York scenes. It was like, that was obviously like wrong on Portia. But when she would like show up drunk and stuff at the door, and the lady was like, do I answer? I was like, okay, like if it were Connor, like if you showed up at my door, you're like, Maddie, I'd be like, hey boy, come on in. I don't know. Maybe that's more about like my relationship with my friends, where I get why Naledi reacts the way that she does, and it is in line with her character. But I was just like, come on, girl, just give Portia some slack, let her in. Okay.
I also think that it was maybe frustrating for Naledi, only because like Portia seems to come from a place of like privilege and like like richness and stuff, and has things handed to her, and I think it might be frustrating to her to see her like so messy, like not messy, but like not really have her life together, and maybe that was like a disconnect as well, like in their friendship.
We've all been friends with the Portia.
That's amazing. Anybody who's like, not me, you are the Portia. Sorry. Okay. That's pretty much all the notes that I had on my list that I wanted to talk to you guys about. Is there anything about this book that we didn't touch on that you really wanted to get off your chest? Or any questions that anybody has in the comments that we have not touched on? All right. The only other thing I feel like it was like inevitable that we've already mentioned, like the Princess Diaries, and what's the other one? The Prince and Me.
The Prince and Me.
Yeah. Okay. Any other royal romances, whether books or not, that you guys love, that you would recommend? They can be in your trash pocket. They don't have to be super amazing, but just any royal romances that you guys turn to.
Ella Enchanted. Do
yes.
it.
Wait, the movie or the book?
Both. I like the movie. I'm trash for the movie too. Like, trash pocket for real.
I like Ella Enchanted too.
Yeah.
I know.
I feel like I just read a series last year that was a royals romance, but now I can't even remember.
No, go.
So there's this trash movie on Netflix, A Christmas Prince, I think.
Oh my God.
Yeah. It's so bad, but like I can't stop watching it. It's like a trilogy now.
Oh my God, it's so bad.
Yeah.
That's like
or
worse
like
than a
the
Hallmark
Vanessa
movie.
Hudgens one.
Okay, that one is
That one's
that one
worse.
is actually
That one's
really
worse.
bad.
That one's
No,
worse.
it's like good bad.
I had so much fun watching that. That was so
No.
good.
Her accent in that movie.
So good.
I mean, yes, but like.
Okay,
It's so
mine
feel-good.
is also a really bad accent, but Ever After. Love it. It's such I love that movie so much. Nicole and I quote it to each other all the time. Like, it's tradition. We say that line all the time. Like, just so good, so pure, so enjoyable. If it's on TV, I'm watching it.
Yeah. I remember, like, I love how they have like Leonardo da Vinci in that movie, Maddie, and like when he's like using his water shoes and he looks down at her and he's like, "It looks like rain." Like my sister and I say that all the time to each other.
Okay, so I don't know if like when we think of like royals romances, I know we usually think of like European, but like I am like such trash for like president's kids and romances. And one of my favorites is Chasing Liberty with Mandy Moore. It's so good. And it's like also like it's also and also the Katie Holmes one is too, but like they're both like secret service romances where they don't know that the guy that's like with them is supposed to be protecting them. And I'm like,
I mean, if we're talking presidential, I really liked My Date with the President's Daughter back in the day.
that's a classic.
Did any of you read Red, White, and Royal Blue?
Yeah,
I'm not.
I like that a lot. I gave it 5 stars too.
Yeah, I liked that one too.
everyone loves that.
I don't gravitate towards royal romances. The only one I have is Princess Diaries.
Oh, I have another one. I just looked up my Goodreads. Okay, so Karina Halley, she's also like a typical romance writer. She's done royals romances, and the first one's called The Swedish Prince, which I pictured Alexander Skarsgård as the guy the whole time.
Nice,
and yeah, those ones are really good. So like the first one is like kind of based off of like Roman holiday, and then the second one is kind of revolving around a fake engagement, and the third one is a nanny romance, but I haven't read that one yet.
Nanny
Sorry. I'm sorry. You say it like it's a valid category. Like nanny romance.
That's a trope, the nanny trope. But like,
my God.
so like his wife dies, and then he got a new nanny, and she's taking care of the kid.
No, I'm thinking of like The Sound of
But
Music.
those ones are like super dirty. So
Yeah,
Sam probably
Sound of
wouldn't like
Music.
Yeah.
It's nanny romance. It's the same.
them. But the fake engagement one was cute.
I can't with you guys. I really can't.
Well, you're gonna have to.
I know. No, damn it. I'm stuck with you guys. You hurt me.
Who's
We
planning
already
to,
know Connor's answer.
I was gonna say, who's planning to read the next ones?
Yeah, Connor's answer. I've already read it. Connor, will you read the third one?
I forgot who the third one is about. I think is that the one that's about the cousin? I don't know. I wasn't as interested in it. I feel like Portia is a huge mess, so I was curious about what would happen to her.
Sure.
And also, like the second one, like Portia's like, all right, I'm gonna go like fix my life, and she goes to Scotland to like learn how to make swords.
Right. I read the synopsis for the next one, and I was like, girl, I support you, so I actually want to read it because I like really support that choice.
Okay, so Sam is going to read
I
it.
will keep reading bad romance.
Yeah, I was actually more excited to get to the next books to follow the other characters than to finish this book.
Lainey, have you read on?
I have not.
Will you?
Yeah, I feel like it's one of those like one of these series that like I'll put like the book on like a TBR and I'll just maybe read it if I'm like in the mood to read it.
Paige.
Yeah, I already was looking at the other books today. I'm definitely continuing. I'm obsessed now.
And
Yeah, I'll try it.
yeah, okay. Yeah, I think it will too. I'll probably put it like on a readathon TBR. Like when it's like a weekend that I'm like trying to get like through a lot of books or something like that, I'll pop in their audio book in, not be in public in case those sex scenes happen to me again. But I enjoyed this enough that I definitely continue reading on in the series. Okay.
I read this for Contemporary-a-thon, so I could see reading more for like Smut-a-thon or Contemporary-a-thon again.
Yeah. All right. I think we're going to wrap it up and announce the books for the next month, unless anybody else has anything. Everybody's already laughing. So funny. Okay, so our book for next month was a whole journey. Here's what happened. At first, we had like talked about things that were coming out in the month, and there are some big releases coming out in the month of March. So we were gonna do the new Sarah J. Maas book, the first in the Crescent City. I forget what the actual title of this is. House of Blood.
Something of Blood and Blood or something like that.
Earth and Blood or something.
Yeah. And so if anybody knows me, they know that I freaking hate Sarah J. Maas. So this was like a thing, it was like, okay, we'll like read it together. We'll have a big variety of opinions. Lainey was immediately like, I'm out. We're not going to participate. And Jordan, you're still going to read it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe not in March, but I will read it.
Jordan's like pumped. Like she's on the other end of the spectrum.
Kayla, are you going to read it?
Maybe. I don't know.
And then in the chat, like right before yesterday or earlier today, Connor was like, yeah, I'm not reading it unless my library has it.
I don't want to pay for it.
And then Sam, you were upset that it was like a $14 ebook.
For sure. And I was like, I don't want to suffer through this when I don't even want to read it.
So immediately we were like, okay, that's it. Nobody's reading this book, so we started talking about some other things that are coming out next month. That we've done 2 backlist titles, so we wanted to do a new release, and we have settled on another new release, and we're going to be reading Chain of Gold by Cassandra Clare. I've not read anything, one other book in the Shadowhunters. It's great. But yes, I will be reading this. Sam, are you reading along?
Yeah.
Kayla.
Of course. I'm Shadowhunter trash. I'm just
okay.
Yeah, we're probably all where we are. We're Shadowhunters, just so everyone knows. I've only read the Infernal Devices, and I don't care about any of the other series. And since this is a sort of continuation after Infernal Devices, that's why I'm reading this series.
And I have read since like City of Glass was a new book like in 2007. So like I've been here for the long ride.
Lainey?
I watched the movie and I watched half of the first season. That's it.
Jordan?
I have been reading since Clockwork Princess came out, so I will definitely be reading.
Connor?
I read the Mortal Instruments as they came out, and then I also have read the Infernal Devices, but I haven't read anything past that. So like Lady whatever. I don't know. We're just going to jump right into this one.
Yeah, and I've read the Infernal Devices. I've read the first 3 books in the Mortal Instruments. I've watched the show. I've watched the movie.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm going in with.
I've read all the roundup.
So basically all of it.
Yeah, basically at this point.
Awesome. Okay. So we will be announcing date and time and all of that jazz on our Twitter at House Salt Club. But yeah, Chain of Gold for March. And thank you for joining us for A Princess in Fury, and to everybody who read along with us and everybody who's watched. I think that is it for this month, and we will be back in March. I will see you guys in Mexico next week.
Yes.
Oh my God.
We're on vacation together. And we're getting married.
I'm getting married.
The rest of the internet in March. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.